Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. The United States is planning to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. And my first question is what are the aliens going to think about that? I mean, obviously, these beings have a great interest in our nuclear capabilities, whether it's nuclear power plants. I mean, a lot of times over the decades, there have been UFOs seen hovering around those facilities, as well as they're most certainly interested in our nuclear weapons, as we all know. I mean, there was the Malmstrom incident in 1967, as well as many other incidents involving nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles, and UFOs. They are very interested in our nuclear power and our nuclear power plants and our nuclear weapons. And I'm just curious to see what will happen when we do finally move forward with this plan to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. Actually, there was an article this week in Politico, and I'm going to read some of that article right now. It says here, the headline reads, Duffy to announce nuclear reactor on the moon. This is the first major agency effort by the interim NASA administrator, who is also the transportation secretary and a former Fox News host. Anyway, it says here, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy will announce expedited plans this week to build a nuclear reactor on the moon, the first major action by the former Fox News host as the interim NASA administrator. NASA has discussed building a reactor on the lunar surface, but this would set a more definitive timeline, according to documents obtained by Politico, and come just as the agency faces a massive budget cut. The move also underscores how Duffy, who faced pushback from lawmakers about handling two jobs, wants to play a role in NASA policymaking. The article goes on and says, it is about winning the second space race, said a NASA senior official, granted anonymity to discuss the documents ahead of their wider release. President Trump named Duffy as interim administrator in July after abruptly withdrawing the nomination of billionaire Jared Isaacman amid a spat with the nominee's ally, Elon Musk. Duffy also offered a directive to more quickly replace the International Space Station, another NASA goal. The two moves could help accelerate United States efforts to reach the moon and Mars, a goal that China is also pursuing. The plans align with the Trump administration's focus on a crewed spaceflight. The White House has proposed a budget that would increase human spaceflight funds for 2026, even as it advocates for major slashes to other programs, including a nearly 50% cut for science missions. The Reactor Directive orders the agency to solicit industry proposals for a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor to launch by 2030. A key consideration for astronauts' return to the lunar surface. NASA previously funded research into a 40-kilowatt reactor for use on the moon, with plans to have a reactor ready for launch by the early 2030s. The first country to have a reactor could declare a keep-out zone, which would significantly inhibit the United States, the directive states, a sign of the agency's concern about a joint project China and Russia have launched. The directive also orders NASA to designate a leader for the effort and to get industry input within 60 days. The agency is seeking companies able to launch a reactor by 2030, since that's around the time China intends to land its first astronaut on the moon. The nuclear initiative means that NASA will continue to have a hand in nuclear development, even after the Pentagon's recent cancellation of a joint program on nuclear-powered rockets. And there's more to that article, but I think we get the point here. Basically, they're planning to, the United States is planning to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. And I find that interesting because I think that, if you look at the history, I mean, there have been reports, astronauts, people on the moon have talked about, there's been rumors, right, about seeing UFOs. I think, of course, these beings are interested in what we're doing on this planet when it comes to nuclear technology, obviously. You have to imagine that they're going to be very interested that we're taking that nuclear technology that we have here, we're going to be putting it on the moon, on another body floating out in space. And you have to ask yourself questions like, would they see this as a concern? May this turn out to be the final straw? Okay, now they're expanding this technology. They're taking the show on the road to the moon. What's next? Mars, and then who knows, beyond the solar system, and perhaps perhaps onto other planets they'll be taking this show. It could be a concern based on the violent nature of human beings, I would have to imagine. I mean, because this country right now, the United States, right, there's lots of violence going on in this country right now. There's violence all over the world right now. You see what's going on over with Israel and Gaza. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff, horrific stuff. There's a genocide ongoing right now. The human race, for the most part, we're monstrous. We're monstrous. We're monsters. And I have to imagine that this has to be a red flag. The fact that we're taking this show on the road to the moon would have to be a red flag in the minds of these alien beings. And I think that could be one of their concerns. I mean, if we talk about the Ariel schools situation from 1994, all those little kids, 60 plus kids, little elementary school kids, see a flying saucer, alien beings. We talk about this all the time, and they're given a warning. Basically, a handful of these kids are given telepathic messages that, oh yeah, this is. Technology is bad, and this is what it's going to lead to. Basically, that was the message, and they're showing scenes of destruction. Maybe we're going to get scenes of destruction if we keep keep moving forward with our violent ways, as well as moving outward into space. So I would have to imagine that the human race poses a concern, most certainly, to other intelligent life out there in the universe. They probably view us as a burgeoning violent disaster for them in the future. I'm just pointing out the reality. The reality of the situation is we are allowing this. It's all of our faults for allowing the things that are happening in this country, in this world, to continue happening. This is the way we are. And I would have to imagine that it looks really bad if you're on the outside looking in at this. You're looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, look at these violent creatures. Look at the way they treat the planet. Look at the way they treat each other. Look at the way they treat the animals. Look at the way they treat their forests. And they're going to start taking this out on the road with their nuclear technology on top of it. I would have to imagine that this moon project is going to attract a lot of UFO activity. That's what I foresee, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But I would imagine you're going to see a lot. You're going to hear about a lot of different UFO reports. I'm sure that the government will try to cover them up, just like they've always been doing. But we'll see. But why are they doing this? You have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of putting a nuclear reactor on the moon? What's it going to do? Well, here's some information I got off of AI. Basically, number one, reliable long-term power source. Solar power has limitations on the moon. Lunar night lasts about 14 Earth days, meaning no sunlight for 2 weeks at a time. Some lunar regions, like craters at the poles, are in perpetual shadow. Dust accumulation can degrade solar panel performance. A nuclear fission reactor provides continuous, reliable power regardless of sunlight, enough electricity for habitats, experiments, life support, rovers, and manufacturing systems. Number two, support for NASA's Artemis program. NASA's Artemis missions aim to establish a sustained human presence on the moon by the late 2020s. A surface nuclear power system would enable long-duration stays. Power research stations, like in situ resource utilization, or ISRU, operations like mining lunar ice for water/fuel and communications. 3. Technology development for Mars. The moon is a testing ground for technologies needed for Mars. Mars also has long nights and variable sunlight. NASA can test and refine compact fission reactors in the lunar environment first. Now, before I continue, I just want to point out that, yes, of course, this is going to take years. We're talking about 2030, and by the time you get to Mars, who knows? It's going to be a lot further out. But see, the problem, time really doesn't really matter here. I know it could take 50 years, 100 years, or 200 years till we're finally flying outside of this solar system. But from the point of view of these alien beings that are this alien presence that's here among us, right? Perhaps this is spitballing. We really don't know the reason why they're here. We really can't say. I'm sure people in the government have a better idea, and they probably don't care. They just want to continue with their warlike ways anyway. They don't care about this alien presence. They want to reverse engineer the technology that they recover and then use it against other people, kill other people with it. That's what it's all about, folks. I don't know if they even care about this alien presence. And maybe they're just going through the motions, just believing, well, there's nothing we could do about it anyway, so let's just keep killing each other and just trying to attain more power and money and just keep moving forward the way we are. I mean, that could be the thinking behind all this. Who knows? It's all speculation. But I do see this as something that's going to raise a red flag in the eyes, perhaps, of the non-human intelligence here that's on this planet right now. Anyway, moving on with some of the other reasons here. Number 4, the system being developed. In 2022, NASA selected 3 companies, Lockheed Martin, Westinghouse, and IX, a joint venture with Intuitive Machines, to design initial concepts. The goal, a 40 kilowatt class reactor, enough to power about 30 households, except, as I just pointed out, I just want to point out that this is going to be a 100 kilowatt class reactor. Operational on the moon by the early 2030s, designed to operate autonomously for 10 years or more. Number 5, safety and international norms. These systems are being developed with radiation shielding and fail-safe shutdown modes. The United States is also participating in international agreements like the Artemis Accords to promote peaceful and safe space activity. And in summary, it says here, the United States wants a nuclear reactor on the moon to ensure reliable energy for future lunar bases, supports deep space exploration, and develop the infrastructure for a sustainable space economy. Now, I just want to point out that all sounds all fine and dandy, and it is. It's great. It's actually good. It's, you know, we're expanding our horizons for sure, right? The human race. But the problem I have is what we're doing to ourselves here. We still need to snap out of this violent frame of mind that we have here on this planet, where we're just killing people and nobody seems to care, and the people that do care get called out for it for some reason, and the people that are doing this, they don't see, they seem like to be they're superior to everybody else. This has to come to an end. We need to get a grip already. The human race needs to get a handle on what we're doing to each other and what we're doing to this planet, and I don't give a goddamn what anybody says about what I think. How about that? What do you think about that? Anyway, I actually asked ChatGPT, what will the extraterrestrial presence on Earth think about this? And this is what ChatGPT gave me. It says, if there is an extraterrestrial presence on Earth, spoiler alert, there is. Whether covert observers, occasional visitors, or something more integrated, their reaction to humanity building a nuclear reactor on the moon would likely depend on their intent, technological maturity, and philosophy. And then it says here, it provides some reasonable scenarios. It says, number 1, technologically advanced non-hostile observers. If ETs are millions of years ahead and simply observing humanity, as some UFO theories suggest, they might view this as a milestone, a sign that humans are reaching a threshold of being multiplanetary, a warning signal. Nuclear power beyond Earth suggests humanity is becoming capable of interplanetary manipulation, which could be viewed as a potential risk to cosmic ecosystems. A test. They may let humanity continue advancing to see how responsibly we behave with such power in new environments. Yes, I would have to imagine that they are most certainly interested to see how we're going to behave as we move forward. But as I was just talking about before, we are behaving in atrocious manners still. I mean, we really haven't changed since World War II, have we? We really haven't, when you really look at the situation. I know some people want to go through life with blinders on their eyes, right? But the human race really hasn't changed one bit. One bit. There's a lot of people on this planet that just don't care about human lives. Only their own lives, only their own greed, only their own power, and instead they just want to run everyone else over in service to themselves. It's ugly. It's horrible. The human race sucks. We need to get a grip. Better, cooler minds need to be in control of this planet, not some of the nitwits that we have running it right now. Unfortunately. Okay, number 2, caretaker or zoo hypothesis beings. If Earth is part of a cosmic zoo or quarantine with ETs acting as curators, the move to establish nuclear infrastructure off-planet might be considered a breach of containment, a possible trigger for more direct intervention or disclosure, a cause to reevaluate humanity's readiness for wider galactic interaction. In such a scenario, building a nuclear reactor on the moon might represent graduation from passive observation to first contact readiness or rejection. That's interesting. And number 3, concerned watchers due to history of nuclear testing. ETs have long been associated in both lore and some military UFO reports with increased sightings near nuclear weapons facilities, suggesting they monitor how we handle destructive power. A nuclear reactor in space might prompt increased surveillance, cautious monitoring, particularly if they view any form of nuclear tech as potentially destabilizing to nearby dimensions, timelines, or energetic balances. Speculative, but found in some contactee reports. And then number 4, indifferent or non-interventionist beings. If extraterrestrials are indifferent or adhere to a non-interference policy, they may not react at all. To them, this could be just another species playing with fire, a predictable step in a civilization's technological evolution, of no importance unless it threatens other intelligent life or environments. And then the bottom line, according to ChatGPT, is if extraterrestrials are here or aware of Earth, again, I just want to point out to ChatGPT, spoiler alert, they are here. I know this for a fact. A lot of us know this for a fact. Anyway, they will likely interpret lunar nuclear technology as a signal of emerging planetary maturity, potential danger, or cosmic readiness. Their response, or lack thereof, would depend on their agenda, ethics, and past interactions, which remains speculative. And I asked this question too. I said, based on the violent nature of human beings, would extraterrestrials view this step as a possible future threat? Yes, very likely, according to ChatGPT. If extraterrestrials are monitoring humanity, they are, and are capable of objective analysis, I'm sure that they are, the combination of humanity's violent history, increasingly powerful technology, a move to expand beyond Earth with nuclear capability would almost certainly raise red flags. Isn't it interesting? A lot of the things that I was thinking, I just asked a simple question here, but, it's with this ChatGPT, with this AI, I mean, it's basically, it's telling you the truth. Yeah. It's telling you how things really are. That's the good thing about it. Unless some people want to get in. I know that Elon Musk was tinkering with his Grok on Twitter, so it's completely useless now as far as I'm concerned. But here, I don't think ChatGPT is at that stage, at least yet. I don't think anyone's been tinkering with it. But so ChatGPT recognizes for sure the humanity's violent history and what this might look like to an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, and it would most certainly, like ChatGPT states, would raise some red flags. What might ETs conclude? Number 1, a violent species escaping its cradle. Humanity has fought thousands of wars over territory, belief, and resources. Yeah, that's all it's about here, folks. It's all about territory. It's all about religion. It's all about bullshit. It's always been about the same old stuff, and we're still doing the same old stuff. We're still running around with our heads up our asses, allowing a certain small group of people taking control of certain countries, right? And just everyone sits around with their heads stuffed way up their asses, while a whole bunch of people, innocent people, children, women and children, end up getting killed for stupid reasons, for no reason. Anyway, yeah, back to what was it saying here? Number 1, a violent species escaping its cradle. Humanity has fought thousands of wars over territory, belief, and resources. Built weapons capable of extinction-level destruction, nuclear, biological, AI, etc. Yeah, there's nuclear weapons pointing in all different directions on this planet right now. We're all stupid. That's why. You know why that is? Because we're stupid. Shown a tendency to colonize and exploit new environments. If ETs apply the same logic we might use when observing a newly emerging violent species, they could see us as a species that still fights over imaginary lines, is now attempting to bring nuclear energy beyond its home planet, risk level increasing. Yes, there's no question that they would look at this as a threat in my mind. That's my belief. It doesn't make me right, but I think that they view this as this is not good for the future. That's what they would look at this. I mean, if we weren't acting the way we act down here, right, then I wouldn't think this way. But however, we do continue to act the way we do down here. And so that means that we're going to act the same way we do here if we go someplace else, because that's just how human beings are. We just don't seem to change. We just seems to be a bunch of bloodthirsty monsters that we have in charge of a lot of countries in this world for some reason, who just hate people for some dumb reason. They hate the human race, and they want to see it. They just want to see it fail. That's what it seems like to me. While they just sit in some yacht or something all day long, while everyone else suffers and dies, and just for these goofballs. Anyway, number 2, weaponization of space equals cosmic alarm. Even if the lunar reactor is purely for energy, ETs could view it as precursor to space-based nuclear weapons. Of course they're going to look at it that way, because that's what it's going to probably be if we don't change down here. It's probably going to turn out to be this. That's what it's going to be. Who knows? Maybe 10,000 years from now, we'll be destroying killing innocent aliens on some non-hostile planet, in another solar system. Who knows? That's probably where this could be heading if we don't change. That's why they might intervene. Maybe that's why they're telling those kids in Ariel School back in 1994, hey, technology, look what it ain't that good sometimes. Look what it might lead to. Look at its destruction. Maybe that's the message. I don't know. I know that incident happened. There's no way all those kids were lying, right? They all said they experienced this. There was a handful of them that had this telepathic message in their, implanted into their brains. There's no question about this, folks. Anyway, the next one here says a threat to nearby celestial bodies or interstellar peace, if such a thing exists. I'm sure that it does exist on some level. They may remember their own history if they ever went through similar stages and fear a repeat. I'm sure that there are other intelligent life forms out there that have advanced or more advanced than we are, right? Millions and millions of years more advanced, perhaps, maybe only tens of thousands of years, hundreds, whatever, right? I'm sure that they started off poorly too, right? Maybe they figured things out, and maybe they figured how to rein it in somehow, and they're hoping that we figure it out too. Could we figure this out together somehow, rather than this constant war? Could we figure it out instead of killing each other all the time? It's absolutely ridiculous, folks. I guess I don't understand why anybody would want any of this stuff. Why are we allowing this? Why are we putting people in power who want to take over other countries, who want to kill other people, right? Why are we doing this? What the hell's the matter with the human race already? We need to grow up. Anyway, number 3, ethical immaturity plus technological power equals high risk profile. From a risk assessment perspective, a civilization with limited global cooperation, rampant inequality, ecosystem destruction on its own planet, and now space-bound nuclear tech could easily be classified as a potential threat to others, including themselves. This is echoed in Carl Sagan's concern. It is not clear that intelligence has survival value. And then it provides here different theoretical possible ET reactions. The first scenario, passive observers, the likely ET response would be intensify monitoring, no intervention unless provoked. So that's at the very least, according to ChatGPT, UFO sightings should increase or will increase, potentially increase. Well, I'm sure that they will, right, when we put this nuclear reactor on the moon. If the scenario involves aliens who are caretaker or enforcer types, they may consider preemptive containment or neutralization if the threat escalates. If the scenario involves diplomatic ETs, the likely response would be wait for humanity to reach interstellar thresholds, then initiate cautious contact or a warning. And if the scenario involves indifferent or transdimensional beings, the response could be they would view it as an inevitable stage or simply ignore it as irrelevant to their scale of concern. And then the final thought here says, if extraterrestrials exist and are aware of our history, again, spoiler alert, they definitely exist. I'm not sure what they know about our history, but guess what? They definitely exist. Spoiler alert. They are likely watching this step very carefully. Whether they act on it depends on their values, risk tolerance, and whether they consider us a future partner, threat, or tragic inevitability. Okay. And then I asked it I actually asked this question. I wanted to know what it would look like, what this nuclear device would look like on the moon, and it provided me this picture. However, this image here was for a 40 kilowatt nuclear reactor. This is what it would look like. It's only a small looking device, but that was their original plans. That was NASA's original plans. However, that's not the plans now. It's going to be a 100 kilowatt class nuclear reactor. And let's see, it gave me this image here, right there. That's what this 100 kilowatt reactor would look like. Something like this. We'll see. We shall see. But anyway, here's the thing. We do know that they have been interested. They've been interested. There's a lot of different reports over the years of astronauts seeing UFOs. So they're most certainly interested in what we're doing, what we're up to, especially when we're, taking these major technological steps like flying into space, right? So they're most certainly interested in. So I would imagine that UFO sightings on the moon, in the moon area, or during the whole process of building that nuclear reactor on there, I'm sure that UFO activity is going to be most certainly increased. Whether the aliens act or whether, I don't think there's nothing for them to be worried about now, but I'm sure that it does raise a red flag based on the way we treat each other on this planet. I mean, because that means we're expanding. That's a big step, putting a nuclear reactor on the moon. Imagine. I mean, that's a big step. You know, if you would have said something like that 100 years ago, some people would have told you were crazy. But now we're actually really moving forward in that direction. So I did get some information with regard to some of the reports over the there were reports of that astronauts landing on the moon in the past encountered UFOs, and here are some of those reports that I was furnished with by AI. Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin and the flashing light. That event during the Apollo 11 mission in July 1969, the crew saw a flashing object traveling alongside their craft on the way to the moon. And Buzz Aldrin later said in interviews that they observed an object that they initially thought might be part of their own rocket. NASA's explanation, possibly the detached SIVB booster or panel debris. Buzz Aldrin's words, "It was not identified. We saw something out there. We decided not to say anything until we got back." This incident is often taken out of context, but NASA has acknowledged the crew reported seeing something unusual. So nobody really knows what that was. Of course, they're going to tell you, yeah, it's just panel debris probably, you know. Next question. Yeah, they're always going to lie to you. They're never going to tell you, oh, yeah, we think this could have been panel debris. Maybe it was extraterrestrials. We're not sure. They're never going to tell you that part, right? They don't ever go there, right? That's how it is. It's always been that way. They treat us like a bunch of babies when it comes. I mean, isn't that funny, right? We put these people in charge. They have us fighting all these dumb wars. They have a bunch of people getting killed all over the place all the time. Never stops. All the time. Every year, year in, year out. And yet at the same time, we're traveling outside of this planet. We're trying to go to other places. We're trying to go to Mars. We're going to the moon. We're all doing all these different things, but yet we're animals. And then they lie to us. And then they lie to us on top of us. They keep us. They act like they treat us like we're just a bunch of sheep, right? I know some of us aren't, right? But a lot of us are. A lot of us people aren't paying attention. I mean, we actually proved last year that there's no question we're not alone. We actually have the absolute proof now, as I've talked about on the show all the time, right? We actually proved it. But guess what? It gets covered up. It's covered. It's been covered up. The mainstream's not talking about it, right? We actually have that evidence. They want to keep everyone dumb. They like to be. We put people in charge, and then they use that to their advantage against the rest of us, right? That's what they do. And to them, right, we're just dots. We're just dots that they could just eliminate when they want to, right? Okay, then one of the other cases here was number 2, Apollo 11. They're watching us. This was a good one. I always like this story. The alleged claim, some sources, notably from alleged insiders like former NASA contractor Otto Binder, claim Neil Armstrong radioed Mission Control privately on a secure channel saying, "They're here. They're parked on the side of the crater. They're watching us." This is unconfirmed and often attributed to hoax or dramatized retellings. No such transcript exists in official NASA records. Still, it's one of the most enduring UFO-related lunar rumors. Let me tell you why there's no transcript in the official NASA records. Because they think you're stupid. That's why. And they don't want to share this information. They want to know about it. They don't want you to know about it. Just know that much. That's what it is. And of course, it's often attributed to a hoax or dramatized retellings, right? Of course they're going to tell you bullshit like that because they think you're stupid. That's why. Okay, Apollo 14, Stuart Roosa's comments. While not directly linked to a UFO sighting, astronaut Stuart Roosa made cryptic comments post-mission suggesting that there was something else out there. Like many astronauts, Roosa was reportedly interested in the phenomenon and became more spiritually reflective after his mission. Now, Apollo 16, there was something that was filmed, and just throw the picture up here right there. I think that what this was here was a floodlight boom. This was it looks like a UFO. It looks like when you first look at this, it looks like a flying saucer out in space. But actually, I think there was a floodlight. There was a boom that was coming off the module, and that's what this was. It wasn't a flying saucer. Footage taken during Apollo 16 appears to show a metallic saucer-like object in the background. NASA's explanation, a reflection or lens artifact, I think it was possibly a boom light, a floodlight boom. That's what I think it probably was. There are people who argue that the object could be a flying saucer, but I don't know. Not everything is a flying saucer. Of course, sometimes things are misidentified, and I think the Apollo 16 object was probably misidentified, but that doesn't make me right. It could be extraterrestrial. There's no problem with saying that either, right? But I think it was probably a floodlight boom. That's just my opinion after the research that I did on this. Of course, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, as we all know, he was someone who was very, very a very strong proponent of UFO disclosure. Though he didn't report a UFO during the Apollo 14 mission, Dr. Edgar Mitchell became one of the most outspoken NASA astronauts regarding UFOs and extraterrestrial life. He claimed there have been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We are not alone. He said he had access to high-level military and intelligence sources who confirmed the UFO presence, but not during his moon mission directly. Well, he was a great guy, and I highly respect Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and the fact that he came forward like this, late in his life and was talking about these things, and telling us, hey, these people are lying here, there's a cover-up. I think I love people like that. I love people who come out and tell the truth. Yeah, actually, somebody asked me yesterday. I received an email. I just want to point this out. I received an email from one of my subscribers, and he asked me if a 4-star general were to come up to me and say, I could show you everything, I could tell you the whole story, show you everything that we have I'll show all the UFOs we recovered, show you the alien bodies, but you can never tell anybody, would you do it? And I said, no, I wouldn't do it. And the only way I would do something like that is if I could tell everybody. Everybody should know about this. What good would it, then if I did something like that, then I would become part of the cover-up. Why would anybody want to do that? I mean, I understand, for greedy, selfish purposes. Oh, yeah, I get to see everything nobody else does, right? No, I don't want to be. I think everybody needs to know about this. The whole world needs to know about this. In fact, I'll tell you what. If the whole world did know about this, what I've been saying throughout this entire episode here, I've been talking about the violent nature of the human race, right? I believe disclosure would wake everybody up. That might be the key we need, right? Disclosure might end all of this violence and get these stupid idiots out of power who are killing people, who are responsible for these fights. We need to end this nonsense. Let's have disclosure. That's probably the biggest reason why they're afraid of disclosure. That's probably it right there. We're spending $1 trillion annually in this country for our Department of Defense. That's ridiculous. And also, I want to point out that ChatGPT also agrees that that the UFOs are going to be showing up at the if the other stories are true, right, about UFOs showing up at nuclear power plants and nuclear missile silos. If those stories are true, again, to ChatGPT, spoiler alert, they are true. If they're true, then they most certainly will be showing up around the moon when we're installing this new nuclear reactor. Yes, if reports that UFOs monitor nuclear activity on Earth are accurate, then it would be reasonable to expect UFO interest in a nuclear reactor on the moon as well. In fact, such a development could become a major flashpoint for interaction, observation, or intervention. So yes, there's been a lot of different things that have happened around, a lot of UFO sightings around our nuclear facilities, around our nuclear missiles, and I would most certainly imagine it's going to be happening on the moon when we start building that, especially, I mean, it's already happened apparently, right? There's already UFO sightings during moon missions in the past, so it's that for sure. That informs me that that's going to happen again, but this time maybe even more so than ever before, because now we're taking our nuclear show on the road onto the moon, and that's a big step, and they're going to see this and they're going to know what we're up to, and they're going to be very interested in it. I don't know, maybe they just look at us like fighter ants, and maybe we're not that much of a threat right now, but maybe they're thinking, you know what, though, this might not be that long. It could only be maybe 200, 300, 400, 1,000. Imagine where they're going to be 1,000 years from now. Imagine what they're going to want to do. They might want to take over other planets. So same way they fight over land on their own planet. Imagine what they're going to do when they find other planets that are even, that they find special, right? And they might want to take that over and just kill all the life that's already there just so they could settle. That could be what's going to be happening. So their conclusion here was, yes, a nuclear reactor on the moon would likely be a high-interest trigger for UFO activity if historical patterns of nuclear-related sightings are meaningful. Again, spoiler alert, they are meaningful. We should not be surprised if, once deployed, future lunar missions or orbiters report unidentified aerial lunar phenomena, sudden equipment anomalies, high energy readings, or objects caught on thermal radar imaging. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be increased UFO activity, I believe, on the moon when we start building that nuclear reactor up there. It's going to be very interesting. But again, I think, the human race really needs to get a grip, folks. I mean, this world is scary and scary and scary. I don't even know what the news every day is just horrible. The way we treat each other right here in this country, it's just awful. It's awful. In some other places, it's a lot worse, I know. We need to stop this. We need to get a grip. This all needs to stop. I really believe if disclosure happens, one of the things that might happen, hopefully happens, is that people will finally wake up and realize, hey, we're being watched. We got to stop this, what we're doing to each other. We got to stop. I don't know. I'm just I don't know, a dreamer. Unfortunately, I do. I'm hoping for things that are impossible, I guess, but if you keep thinking positively, maybe others will follow suit. I don't know what the answer is. I just don't like the way things are right now on this planet, and I'm sure it's very embarrassing to think that there could be other intelligent beings out there looking down at us and seeing what we're doing to each other, and it's ugly, folks. It's really ugly. So I would have to imagine that there are concerns. There would be concerns from another advanced intelligence looking at what we're doing, taking our show on the road like that. That most certainly is going to raise some red flags, I believe. Anyway, I want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.